Good evening. This is James Exum, also known as Sakshi, coming to you from my home in South Austin, Texas. It's approximately 7:30 in the evening on December the 3rd of 2025. I have in the last few videos presented you a mixture of yoga philosophy in general, and then there were, I think, five intermingled in there. Tried not to intermingle them, but I tried to produce them consecutively, and I think I did, on the subject of yoga and how it can be applied to the problems of karma going bad in the United States, more especially in Washington, D.C. And I hope you enjoyed those. They seem to be getting quite a response. I mean, not real heavy. I don't have a heavy following, but they're accelerating, and I like that. I like it a lot. I'll be right back. As I was saying, I like it a lot. Tonight, or this evening, I intend to present the first in a group of videos that will have to do, or having to do, with the same subject, politics in Washington, and the influence positive aspects of yoga can have on the karma that's happening there, and the falsities that are in action in that particular environment. The reason I'm saying this is because I intend to introduce a new group having to do with yoga and politics, and I believe 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, there should be about 10 new videos, particularly on this subject, and those videos will be in sequence, and there could be 8, there could be 10, there could be 12, but they're about to start. I think it's an important thing to do this at this time because the history of yoga, which I have taught on, being an old yoga philosopher and a writer and a commentator, has been pretty much introduced to my audience within the 77 or 78 videos I've produced so far. Most of them were near the very beginning. It was only after going into that detail in depth that I started shifting to less academic and more social subjects. So tonight I'm going to start with the very first one on this particular subject of yoga and politics in Washington. And the title of this one will be Transparency and Truthfulness, Bringing Satya, which is truth, to the halls of power. Well, that's a rather long title. I'll probably abbreviate it in the title section on YouTube, my YouTube channel, which is James Exum, Sakshi, S-A-K-S-H-I, at youtube.com. And the word Sakshi, which follows my given name, is the name I gave to my soul, and Sakshi means the witness. And we won't get into that very much. There's enough in past videos that will reconcile that in your mind if you wish to go back and seek through them to find out exactly what I'm saying about that naming. So let's start first by speaking on Satya, S-A-T-Y-A. Satya is a core principle from yogic philosophy, and it means simply truthfulness. And it offers a vital ethical framework for leadership and governance. So you can see now why I'm trying to incorporate yoga principles, especially yoga philosophical principles and writings, into my videos at this exact moment in time. I think it's timely, and I think if enough people listen to it and adopt the idea of what I'm talking about, it should be helpful. So Satya is a core principle. It offers a vital ethical framework for leadership and governance by promoting transparency, integrity, and compassionate communication in decision-making processes. And the reason you see me look over to my left, which would be your right, I suppose, is because I'm reading from the discourse I wrote this afternoon. I will read from it. I will sometimes turn back to you and give you a ad-lib discourse on, or explain as a commentary what I'm talking about from my reading. Okay, so now we're going to go down a few practical bullet points, going deeper into the subject. Satya, the role in leadership. Satya extends beyond honesty to include authenticity and integrity, urging leaders to foster trust. Well, we need that. And my clear intentions and open communication should enhance collaboration and accountability if it's ever received by the right sources, the right participants. Practical leadership applications. Leaders should practice transparent decision making, accept accountability, communicate clearly, develop ethical policies, and engage in compassionate dialogue to build a trustworthy government environment. Well, this is the way it has been on and off since the coming into being of the United States government. Next is balancing truthfulness with prudence. We don't hear the word prudent much anymore. I think George the first is the one our President George and son followed during the problem with 9/11. I think George, the first George, said the word prudence occasionally. While embracing Satya, leaders must discern themselves with full transparencies, when full transparencies may conflict with greater welfare, just as sensitive negotiations and cultivate self-reflection. Well, we need some self-reflection up there, boys. And, of course, a truthful culture and an ongoing ethical education to uphold Satya effectively. I was talking about George Bush, of course, and President George Bush, a fellow Texan, as is his son. So let's now dive into the actual text that was just introductory. In today's complex world, where power and influence shape the destinies of nations and organizations, the principles of transparency and truthfulness have never been more critical. Rooted in the profound wisdom of Yogic philosophy, the concept of Satya, the word means truth, just to reinforce it for you, offers a timeless framework for ethical conduct and leadership. This document, this discourse, explores how Satya can be meaningfully integrated into the halls of power, transforming the way leaders govern and make decisions. Okay, let's keep them again for 1 second. I'm just going to correct something here in my manuscript. There, it makes it much easier for me to read it. I'm post cataract surgery. I've had some cataract surgery on these old eyes, and I'm seeing rather clearly now. I still wear the glasses, not for effect, but they just help. Even if you've had cataract surgery, there are some lingering particles, so to speak, that still affect your vision. So let's move on further into the understanding of Satya in yoga philosophy. Satya is one of the 5 yamas, or ethical. Yama means ethical restraints, described in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which is a major work of Vedic writing. It is, and Patanjali is a great writer. You can look all of this up. You can go to Yogipedia or Wikipedia and find Patanjali, Patanjali. It looks like Patanjali, but it's Patanjali. It is more than mere honesty. Satya encompasses authenticity, integrity, and the unwavering commitment to truth in thought, words, and deed. Wow, that's a novel principle in this, a group of novel principles in this day and age. Practicing Satya requires self-awareness. I was just joking about that. Discernment and the courage to confront uncomfortable realities while expressing oneself with compassion and non-harm, which is known as ahimsa, which was taught by the great Indian scholar and leader Mahatma Gandhi. Well, moving right along, let's go to the relevance of Satya in leadership and governance. In the context of leadership, especially within governmental or corporate power structures, Satya challenges leaders to move beyond expediency and political maneuvering. It calls for a culture where facts are not obscured. Well, we're having a rash of that happening nowadays. Intentions are clear and communication is open. Well, again, this is a sparsity happening in our present governmental situation. Leaders who embody Satya inspire trust, foster collaboration, and create environments where innovation and accountability can thrive. Well, I strive to be one of those leaders. I like the idea of truthfulness. Now, of course, I'm human, and remember, yoga is a science and not a religion, so I have no religious affiliation as far as titles or even institutes. I'm just simply an old yogi. I've been at it about 45 years now, or longer, and I try to make honesty, as I was taught as a child, the best policy in my activities and intercourse with the world, and our exchanges with the world. The word intercourse nowadays can be misconstrued. I'm using it in the classical sense, and of course also in trade. Practical applications of Satya in the halls of power. Now this is where we're moving past the gristle and getting to the meat, and I'm an old vegetarian, so I should have used that, but there it is. Practical applications of Satya in the halls of power. Transparent decision making. Leaders should commit to making decisions based on accurate information, sharing the rationale and evidence with stakeholders. This openness reduces misinformation and builds a collective confidence. Marvelous. Accountability and responsibility. Practicing Satya means acknowledging mistakes as soon as they happen. Never back away from the truth or try to cloud the subject with gaslighting or misleading statements. Leaders set a powerful example by admitting errors and working to correct them. And I can assure you, my history is checkered with errors and accomplishments. And this admitting errors and working to correct them fosters a culture of continuous improvement. Marvelous stuff. Even though I wrote it, I can admire it. I'm objective enough to do that. Clear communication. This is an important point. Excuse me 1 second. Even though I'm speaking quietly, I have a bird in a bedroom beyond this room, and he's a parrot. He's about 20 years old. He's a silver-winged cockatoo, and he went to sleep about an hour plus ago. But when he hears my voice, even when I'm speaking softly like I am to you now, it tends to bring him out of his slumber, and he wants to come back into the day's activity and participate. That's just his nature. Clear communication, truthful leaders, this is one of the important ones. Clear communication, truthful leaders avoid ambiguity and doublespeak. That's an old George Orwellian term, I believe, from his book 1984. Doublespeak. The American Indians would call that speaking with a forked tongue. And what creature in nature has a forked tongue? Well, there are probably many of them, but the one that immediately comes to mind is the serpent. They communicate policies, expectations, and feedback clearly, assuring that all parties have a shared understanding. They should communicate policies, expectations, and feedback clearly. Ethical policy development. When crafting policies, integrating Satya ensures that rules and regulations are fair, transparent, and in the best interest of all, not just a select few. Well, you can see where I'm going with this. Now we move on to constructive dialogue. Satya does not demand bluntness or insensitivity. Leaders can speak truth with compassion, balancing honesty with empathy, and respect for diverse perspectives. Honesty with empathy. Wonderful. That's great stuff. Excuse me again. And I'm back, and I'll repeat that last sentence. Thus, practicing Satya requires discernment, balancing openness, and with prudence and the greater welfare. This challenging and balancing truthfulness is another, well, all of this is important, but when I think it's doubly important, so to speak, or it applies to our exact moment in history, I will emphasize it. While Satya is a noble idea, its applications in the halls of power can be challenging. Leaders may face dilemmas where complete transparency can endanger sensitive negotiations or national security. Yogic philosophy acknowledges such complexities and suggests seeking the path of the highest good while minimizing harm. Thus, practicing Satya requires discernment. Now we need to know, or they need to know, how to cultivate Satya. And this is steps for the leaders in power at this moment and those coming into power in the future. The first step is self-reflection. Regular introspection helps leaders become aware of their motives, biases, and the impact of their words and actions. Well, the words spoken by our leader the other day against those 6 Congress members, simply because they stated the obvious that the military people, and I was in the Air Force for 4 years during the Vietnam War. I did not go to Vietnam, but I served during the period of Vietnam. That 4-year period of Vietnam, we were taught from the military code of ethics that you do not follow illegal orders. Well, that's all they said in that combined statement they put out. And of course, the mouthpiece of the White House in the conference room, in the press room, she totally ripped that entire statement apart, flipped it over, and made Donald Trump the victim. I very seldom mention his name. Kind of sticks in my throat, sort of like a thorn. Yes, like a thorn, not in my side, but in my throat when I say his name. And she tried to just flip the table and accusatory and validate him calling for hanging and all sorts of horrible things that a president should never say about someone active in the Congress. Never say. It was just god-awful to hear a woman enunciate all that stuff. I'll go ahead and call it what it is, crap. Again, I'm not a person that has a religious title. I'm a yogi, and yoga is a science. It's not a religion, so you see no conflict there, as I see no conflict in occasionally saying a mild phrase like that. Yoga philosophy acknowledges such complexities and suggests seeking the path of the highest good while minimizing harm. Thus, practicing Satya requires discernment, balancing openness with prudence and a greater welfare. So how do we cultivate this Satya, or how do the leaders cultivate it? They can do it through self-reflection, as I said. And we'll go to the second segment of this little section, building a trustful culture. Organizations can foster Satya by encouraging whistleblowing, protecting dissent, and rewarding integrity. Well, not following unlawful orders is not in the line of following integrity. Integrity, true integrity, should be rewarded. Also, the general public should have an ongoing education. The school should train in ethical reasoning, communication, and mindfulness, can equip leaders, once they get out of school and become leaders, and the active leaders in power now, to practice Satya effectively. And I know this seems long-winded to you, and it is, I suppose, to a degree. But I'm about to enter the conclusion of this. Bringing Satya to the halls of power is not the halls of power. Is not merely an aspirational goal, but a practical imperative. I'm speaking in an imperative tone and parlance here for ethical leadership in the contemporaneous modern world. By embracing transparency and truthfulness, leaders can build trust, inspire their teams, and create lasting positive change. Yoga philosophy offers both the wisdom, the vision, and the tools for this transformation, reminding us that the pursuit of truth is the foundation of genuine power and progress. And there it is. So, again, there will be several videos on this subject, 8 to 10, I'm not quite sure. I've just created the subject matter so far as temporary titles for each discourse. And this is the very first one I created that was on that list, and I'll check them off as they go. If you'd like, I'll give you a preview of it by just reading from this. This is all still in the works, so don't take it as gospel, so to speak. No pun intended. Okay, first, Yoga's take on political integrity, which I originally titled Unmasking Washington. The next one is Yoga in the Swamp, Finding Truth Amidst Political Crookedness, followed by Straightening the Spine of Washington. There's a few spines AWOL up there, if you ask me. Through Yogic Insights on Corruption, The Ego in Politics, we know that's going to be a masterpiece, I hope. A yoga philosophy exploration of Washington's ways, and more especially the head of the pile, so to speak, that's in the chair of leadership now. From the mat to the capital, that's a yogic one. Applying yoga's yamas, those are those righteous steps, to political greed, detachment and duty, how yoga philosophy illuminates Washington's moral dilemmas. Dharma versus decency, balance and power, transparency and truthfulness, and transforming the swamp through integrity in American politics. And I know I went through this rather quickly, but that's how I read sometimes. So we're at 23.14 minutes and seconds. I'm going to close this out under 25, I hope. And here we go. If you enjoyed this, and I hope you did, thank you. It was my pleasure to create it for you and to narrate and comment on it for you, by my listeners. If you didn't, that's okay too. You can't please them all, as they say. And I would like to say to each and every one of you, be good to yourself. This is my standard closing. Be good to others, and be good to strangers. Because we are in a situation right now, unseen and unparalleled in my lifetime. Nixon's resignation from power is about as close as I can remember in my lifetime. Now, there was an earlier one during my lifetime. That was the McCarthy era, but I was a babe in arms. Actually, I was born in 1950, 75 years old now. But I think that McCarthyism went on, started out around the time of my birth and ran up to about maybe 1955. I'd have to go double check my figures on that. Never really got into McCarthy. It seemed to depress me even as a child when I'd hear the word, and I wonder why. Maybe that was a yogi in the making in me at that point in time. So here we go. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, that's okay, as I said. Spread the word if you can, and I don't have a like button. I don't have a join button. I don't have any of that. I'm getting no profits from this. I was mentioning of Yogipedia, Wikipedia. There's no compensation in any of this. I'm not seeking finances. I'm seeking results from what I'm trying to spread to the world at this moment in time. And so there we are, right a few seconds past 25 minutes after. So thank you for coming and listening, and good night to you. And I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.